Okay, so this is the second part, and this part is also gonna be an hour long, which I thought is gonna be 2 hours long, but it didn't. Okay, so as you can see, I am like working on the lips, and the idea is to add those light red like tones that you can say in the reference, basically, and that's what I'm trying to do. The idea is not to like add them exactly how you are seeing in the reference, but the idea is to just to see if the colors are actually gonna work or not. So after like adding these, okay. I am actually adding these dark spots that you can see in the reference, but yeah, you're gonna see that I am actually gonna be doing a little bit of rendering to see if the color is working or not. And in the end, if it turned out that the color actually have worked, I am just gonna like add all these details. But yeah, right now you can like see that I am just blocking out the colors. Spoiler alert, by the way, I am actually gonna be changing the color of the lips. So the lips that I'm doing right now is not gonna be the final color. I am just gonna be changing the color of the lips one more time. Okay, so I think I have actually kind of blocked out the color on the lips. So now I am working on the nose. The nose does not really have like some of the unique spots. So the idea on the nose is to just add as much randomness and the variation as possible so that it would look like a really nice looking skin. Okay, so I think at this point I have actually kind of figured out the color, like the base color. So I am basically past the stage where I was just figuring out the colors and blocking out the colors. So now you can see that I am basically just adding all sorts of colors in the skin. So you can like see in this particular part that I am actually adding the reds. And yeah, this is basically what I am doing, as much variation as I possibly can. One of the things that you have realized is whenever I have to choose the brush, I always just go on the properties panel, even though you could have actually just changed the brush on the top left corner. You can like see the brushes. You can actually just select the brushes on the top left corner. Actually, I didn't knew that when I was working. I was just, just working on the sculpt, and I realized, wait, you can actually just select the brushes on the top left corner. So that was actually kind of embarrassing, not gonna lie. And I have just told you this. I should have like talked about it a bit before, but okay. So now you can see that I'm basically just trying to add as much variation and color like variation as I possibly can to make sure that skin does not look like that it is actually made out of silicon, and it basically looks like that it is actually a realistic skins. And because a realistic skin actually have a whole lot of color variation, that's what I'm trying to add. And as you can like as you know this brush that I'm using actually have the noise texture, so that texture also gives me pretty nice looking variation. And as you can see that I've just realized that I can just select the brushes from the top left corner, which is actually quite funny, not gonna lie. So yeah, now you can see that I have actually chosen the smaller detailed brush, and this brush is basically just gonna give us small little dots, and those dots are just gonna be helpful to create some nice looking variation. Now, wherever I am adding these darker tones on the cheeks, actually these darker tones are present in the reference as well. In this particular case, you cannot see that in the reference because the reference that I'm looking at is actually on my second screen. But yeah, because you're gonna be creating different character, there is obviously a chance that these darker spots are not going to be present on your character's skin. So make sure that you basically just judge on your own. You basically just look at your own reference and judge whether your character have these darker spots or not. I mean, not just the darker spots, but try to make sure that the tone that you are, painting is actually correct to the reference, and not don't just copy me. What I am doing is still again a trial and error method, and it took me like I think 2 tries to actually get the tone right. And even after that, I had to paint all the darker stuff afterwards. I mean, you've seen the process, right? So yeah, it is just trial and error, and again, it is not like an streamlined process where you would actually get everything correct on the first go. I mean, maybe if you have practiced one character multiple times, you'll be able to, get it right on the first go. But if you are creating a character for the first time, I mean, characters are actually so different from each other. Like every character is different. I made many, and every time I create a new character, it is again a new challenge. So yeah, it is just a trial and error thing. So make sure you do that. Now, I have actually added a little bit of randomness. Now I felt like that I can actually add a little bit of desaturated and higher value pinkish color. So that's what I'm adding. Again, this is just to add variation in the lips, because lips also actually have these variations. So yes, you can actually add those. And this is something that you have seen in the reference, by the way. In this particular reference, you cannot see the lip area, but yeah, you get the idea. And now you can see this is actually pretty straightforward, that I am just spreading the lip color onto the corners. So this is not something super complicated to understand. And yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Again, even in the lip, you can see that I am actually adding the darker tones, the lighter tones, and you're gonna see as well that I am gonna add some of the greens and the blues as well in the lips. So yes, you can actually add these color variation even in the lips, even though lip is one of those areas which can be considered only red. It might look like that lip does not really have any of the color variation, but the reality is some of the characters definitely have these variations. Maybe your character might not have those, but mine definitely did have these. So I am actually just adding these variations, and as you can clearly see, like the color variation inside of the lips that I have. Okay, as you can see, like I am actually just keep on changing the color, and this is just me picking up the neighboring color and then just changing the value and saturation, so that I basically can get the variation in terms of hue and saturation, and not hue, but in terms of saturation and value. Okay, so I've told you that I am gonna be adding some of the greens, and that's what I am actually adding right now. So just don't overdo this particular part, otherwise it's not really gonna look that good. But yes, one of the ways you can add variation is to just pick up a color and then go into your color wheel and just increase or decrease the value, and also the saturation, so that you basically can get the same hue but different values for the similar colors, and that is just gonna create more randomness. Okay, so in this case, I have actually just added the greens, and as you can see in the area where you usually get the hairs, that part is actually greener than everywhere else. The tone is obviously different, and that is one of those things that you need to obviously try to implement in your portrait, because that's usually how it goes with people. I mean, with people who have beards. So yeah, that's what I'm actually trying to achieve as well. I have actually changed the reference, and I think you can see on the cheeks the darker areas that I've tried to edit basically, right? I really hope that you can see the darker parts. So this is the darker area that I was talking about, and I have finally changed that in the recording. So that's pretty nice actually. Now you can see that I am again, getting a little bit darker red to actually re-add those darker parts. The idea is to just look at the reference, and in this particular reason, or not reason, but in this particular situation, I'm not really gonna be painting it exactly how I'm seeing in the reference, but yes, at least a similar hint is actually just gonna work fine. So I am not really that worried about that. If it was a mole, again, I'm talking about moles. Moles are one of those things that you need to get accurate. So if it is something that everyone remembers basically in a portrait, so for example, let me actually think of a celebrity who have a mole. I mean, I can think of a male one, not a male one, but I can think of an Indian one. But there is a possibility that you are not Indian and you might not be able to know the celebrity. Let me just search online a Hollywood star who actually have a mole on his head, on his face. Okay, so I have just researched it, and Marlene Manore actually one of those not characters, but one of those celebrities who have mole on her cheeks. So yeah, you get the idea. If you don't know who she is, you can just search for her name. And yeah, she is like one of those celebrities. So okay, so right now, as you can see in the reference that we have a little bit of darker area in the corner of the eyes, and that's what I'm trying to add. Actually, spoiler alert again, this is not gonna work out. So you're gonna see me removing these darker areas in the future because this is makeup actually. So I didn't really wanted anything, unnatural like this on his face in the render. So I had to remove it, and I mean, right now I am obviously adding it because I thought this is like something interesting, and it turned out to be that it actually didn't work quite well, so I had to remove it. Okay, so now you can see even in the reference, wherever there is like these wrinkles, you can see that these wrinkles are actually pretty pale, and yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to achieve as well. Basically, just trying to look at the reference and seeing whether the wrinkles are pale or not. And it turned out to be they are. So I am just trying to, just add these. Okay, so the render is done. And as you can see, we have actually achieved a little bit of color variation in the skin, and it is looking pretty nice, in my opinion. Like you can see how good it is looking, and also you can see the lips are actually looking pretty nice as well. We just need to do a little bit of work, and one of the reason that I am actually going to change the color of the lip is because I thought that the lips are supposed to be a bit more purpley and pinkish like you have in the reference. So I am gonna be changing the hue, but if you were to look at the eyes, you can see it is actually a bit too darker than I really liked it to be, and it just didn't work out. But you can see the eye corner actually. So I am just gonna remove this darker areas, and I am just gonna redo the lips so that it would be a bit too closer to the reference. And right now I felt like that it actually is not closer to the reference, and now you're just gonna see me removing the colors that I have just added and then redo the lips again. So this is also one of those things that I've told you that you're gonna see the mistakes that I made, and correcting those mistakes. Even though you didn't really had to correct these, I think it still would have just worked fine. But yeah, you are actually gonna see that I am just gonna start changing these colors. Okay, so I am just trying to figure out the right color that we actually need for the lips right now. As you can see, I am like adding this purplish kind of a color. again you can see that I am actually just trying to figure out the right tone of the lips, and you're gonna see that I'm not really gonna go into the details as much. But right now, because I am redoing the lips, the focus is just gonna be to, get the tone right, which I thought I was not able to get right on the first place. Actually, on the second place, I think I've changed the lip color two times now, right? Okay, so this is something like I am like kind of doing the detail part, which I didn't really had to, by the way. I should have just done a render before, but I think this is just to see if this part is gonna work or not. And I think that's basically the reason I did this. I mean, I think what the reason behind me doing this is to see if the subsurface scattering is actually gonna work with this color that I've just added. So yeah, I think that was the reason. And right now you can see how I am changing the color, and yeah, we just need to see if this color is gonna work or not now. One of those things, by the way, I could have just ignored doing the upper lip so that I basically can compare between the upper and the lower lip, but in this case I'm just doing the both. And now as I've already told you that I am gonna be removing this darker area. So what I am doing, I am actually just selecting the neutral color that we have from the start, and that color is again just being used as a eraser. So yes, we are technically using the eraser to remove the color. By the way, if you have like changed the hue or saturation of your whole color and then you have baked it, this color which we are using as a eraser is not gonna work obviously. So what you can do, you can like just go behind the portrait and just pick the color from the back of the head, because that is gonna be one of those reasons in the portrait that you might not have painted yet. So that area is still gonna be neutral, and yeah, this is basically how you can just pick up the base color. Okay, so in this case, you can see that I am redoing the eye corner, which I have previously ruined by the black color that I've added. And I'm not really gonna blame myself. Again, I've told you it's just a trial and error thing, and that was the part of me just doing the trial and error. So yeah, okay, so I think I am like I have actually started adding some of the variations. As you can see, I think it would have been better if I would have just done a render right now to see if this particular tone is working or not, because we have obviously changed the tone, and I should have just done a render before adding all these variations. But I think it's still fine. We are not really spending that much amount of time, so I think it is totally okay to do it this way. I mean, obviously, it is a personal choice. If you feel like that you want a render, like right now, you can. And if you feel like, if you're confident enough to imagine the color in the render, then yeah, you don't really have to. So again, I have actually started adding these greens in the lips. I have not really added the same color in the upper lip, by the way. So I think I'm actually just gonna do it now. And yeah, I mean, the process. Again, this is one of those parts where I am just gonna get confused to what to talk about actually. So, okay. So, yeah, I'm just like changing the tone of the lips again. And we'll see how it would turn out to be. And I think, okay, so now we are just gonna do a render. And that is just to compare. And let's actually see. So, this is the new tone. And okay, I'm not gonna lie, but the previous one was actually working a bit better, in my opinion. Okay, so am I actually going to change it again? I have forgotten actually. Am I gonna be changing it again? Okay, so I am darkening this area. So I think at that particular time, I must be thinking that this area is actually a little bit too brighter. So I need to darken this part out a bit. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just darkening this particular area. So That was the thought process at that particular time. Right now, I think that this color tone is not working. So just me taking a little bit of break, I basically have the same opinion, even though it's me who is sculpting. And yeah, I think in both of these cases, I've judged differently. So that must be because I've basically taken a break from this project. Right now, I am actually kind of judging with a fresh mind. So that could potentially be the case. Okay, so I've just took a sip of water, and again, this is a reminder for you to do it as well. Okay, so now again, as you can see that I am like adding LEDs again. So I mean the concept is again pretty simple. You add one color and then you add another, and both of those colors are actually just gonna create variation, and eventually you are just gonna get both of those colors in that particular area. So as you can see, you have paler tones and the red tones, both of those tones in the eye corner, and that is basically how the painting approach actually goes. And this is again a three-part series, and this is a hour-long video. I don't remember, by the way, how long the third part is gonna be because I haven't actually seen it yet. So yes, right now, this is the second part, and actually, we are pretty far way done. Actually, this is still like it already is looking pretty nice. If you really want to, you can just start adding some of the veins and stuff. But again, this is just me who always just try to, fix small little details. I basically do a whole lot of cherry picking, and in this case, the eye is definitely looking a bit better. Okay, so my personal opinion right now is that this particular part is a bit too dark and a bit less reddish. So I would have actually just make it a bit redder. I think right now I'm talking about that we need to add these dots to break up the speck, even though we don't really have that much speck going on. I mean, we have, but the roughness is a bit too much. But yeah, I think that's what I was talking about. One of the things that I have noticed is that the value is actually looking pretty nice on the lips. The color could be a bit improved, but I think the value itself is looking nice. Okay, so right now I'm just trying to figure out the color that we wanna use to create all these small little details that we have on the cheeks. So you can like see that I am basically, trying to get something similar on the cheeks going on. So that's why I'm not really like putting this color all over the cheek area. I'm just like trying to get something similar going on. And now, if I were to just start using this color, I can basically add those paler colors that we have in between this shape. So, yes, you can like clearly see in the reference that in these like reddish part, we have a paler color going on. So, that's like one of the reasons I am actually doing it. Okay, so yeah, like you can see what I am trying to achieve. Actually, in like different references, you can see them a bit better. For some reason, even though this is like much more higher resolution image, for some reason you cannot really see this particular thing that like nicely. But yeah, you can like from the side view, you can see how dark the cheek area is. And yeah, I'm just trying to imitate the same thing. And like you can see that I'm actually trying to add the sports in the similar area, even though within the beard we are not gonna be seeing these things, but I am like still adding these. So yeah, like you can see in the cheek area, some of these colors are not sharp. So I am just trying to make sure that I basically add these variation so that these colors actually look crisp and nice. Okay, so now I am actually just blending the color for some reason, even though I don't know why I am actually doing it. But maybe because I am not really liking how the color variation is looking in this particular area. Because, yes, I can remember that the variation in this particular area where I am blending the color was a bit too much, and I actually didn't like it. So I think that's why I am blending these colors right now, and re-adding all these pale colors, by the way. Again, even though I didn't like the previous like the variation, I am like redoing the variation. So yes, again, the same concept of trial and error is being used here. Okay, so in this particular case, I am like trying to add the darker tones. Okay, so in this particular part, the idea is to get some of the similar shapes going on, as we can see in the reference, and that's what I'm trying to do. So the bigger detailed brush, I think it actually have less of the jitter, and that's why the strokes are a bit more controlled. And with those controlled strokes, you can see that I'm not just putting all the colors basically randomly that I've done before. But these are like pretty controlled strokes, and the idea is again pretty simple. The idea is to just try to like get the similar thing going on. So yeah. Okay, so this is the render, and like you can see something similar is being painted, but I think the area is wrong. I should have painted that a bit lower, and yeah, the place is not like correct, which is, I know it is dumb, but yeah, this is okay. So I think now I'm actually just gonna remove all this part and try to paint something similar a bit below. Some of these shapes are like they're not as crisp, and I need to do a bit better job to like achieve something similar, because right now the even the shapes and the like the differentiation that we have in the reference is not similar. So we need to work on it a bit more, and obviously the placement of these like red areas are not correct. They need to be a bit lower. So I think that's what I am gonna be doing now. I need to obviously remove some of these colors first. So let's actually start do that. Okay, so now that we have actually removed all those spots, the skin is obviously looking kind of flat. So now we need to re-add all these variations, and I think that's what I'm gonna do now. Or maybe, okay, I think first I am actually gonna start creating all these shapes again. I know. It is actually kind of boring to see me doing the same thing again and again, which is like something you might not have expected from a course. But again, I didn't really wanted to, hide anything. This is just how it is, and I could have like fixed this behind the scene, by the way, and I could have just edited this part out. But I like we already had a deal, if you remember. I've told you that you're gonna see some of the mistakes that I do. That's why you bought the course, and now you are just seeing me doing the mistakes. The prophecy is turning out to be true. I could be a prophet, by the way. Can I? I don't really think that I should say it. That was a joke, just in case if any one of you got offended, that was a joke. Don't like try to be a bit negative. But yeah, right now you can see that again, just fixing the mistakes that I've did, just trying to do the same thing that I've done a bit before, and like trying to add all these different variation that I'm seeing in the reference. Is there like anything special that I'm doing? I don't really think so. At this point, I don't even want to match it with the reference, and I am just like trying to get the sharpness that I want in the area that I actually had not that I didn't had in the previous render. So that's what I'm trying to add now. You can actually just see that just looking at the reference, trying to do the similar thing, and nothing really fancy that is happening right now. So okay, so I think I have actually started adding some of the paler variations. Some of these areas they don't look that sharp, and that's what I'm actually gonna try and do. So let's just continue doing the work. And right now you can see that we are actually getting some of the colors, but obviously it is not accurate to the reference. So yep, we definitely need to fixing some of these things and start making these a bit sharper. So you can see that I am actually increasing the contrast first, and after that I can actually start removing some of these colors. And that adding and removing is just gonna create a bit more contrast, and I really hope that it is also gonna create a bit more sharpness. So let's actually see. As you can see that I am basically just painting over these areas where I felt like that the transition was not sharp enough. So yes, this is basically what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just trying to make sure that these transitions are sharp and they basically pop out like they are popping out in the reference. I've did some work and let's see how the render actually is turning out to be. So the idea is to see if it is actually looking sharp or not. And it is definitely a bit more contrasty, a bit more sharper. So yes, we are a little bit closer to the reference. So that's pretty nice. Okay, so as you can see, I have actually just started, creating some of the sharpness, a bit more contrast. Actually, by sharpness, I'm just trying to say that, creating a little bit more contrast. So that's what I'm actually trying to create. And again, I've told you, even if it does not match 100% with the likeness, I don't think that's actually gonna be that big of a deal because you definitely cannot tell even in the like even if you were to look at a person's face, these small little details don't really matter as much in terms of likeness. Literally right now I'm just trying to add some of the darker tones on the nasal level fold, and this is just to do a test render to see if it is actually gonna work or not, like this brownish color that I've just added. And yeah, again, I am just trying to figure out if some of these tones that I am, painting with is gonna work or not. Like for example, the color that I've added on the veins, whether these colors are gonna work or not. Okay, so now you can see that I am actually trying to remove some of these colors because as you can see, these are actually a bit too much than we have in the reference. So I am just trying to match the amount that we can see in the reference at this point. And yeah, the darker color that we have added on the nasal level fold, I think I am actually gonna be removing that as well. I am not quite sure because obviously you just cannot remember each and every step that you did right. I mean, if the step actually consists of trial and error. You basically don't remember the step. But yes, as you can see that the idea is to add the darker colors and then remove the colors so that we basically have these patches of darker areas. And in order to create this randomness, I did this. So I think that was the plan in that particular time. So this is basically something similar that I'm doing. And now you can see that I am just like adding the browns in some of these areas to, create more darker and random areas again. I mean, the workflow is again similar. The workflow I've already talked about, adding and removing the colors, is just gonna give us the variation. And like I'm literally repeating the same thing. And trust me, I have no idea what to say right now because, like you can see, I think I have added enough variation that it could literally work as a skin. Like right now in the cheek area, especially not on the upper lip part, that part still needs a little bit of variation. But you can see that I have actually started adding some of these small little details and the sharper details actually with the smaller detailed brush. So at this point, I am just trying to add the variation, the difference in the color so that we basically get the detail out of the albedo map. And let's actually just do a render now to see how it looks. I've done the render, but okay, so I think I am removing the hue saturation node and then I'm actually gonna be doing this render. So yeah, you can see the amount of variation that we have, and it is kind of looking similar, but again, the reference that we have, this is not the skin tone that I want to go with. So I think I'm just going to enable the hue saturation node. And if there anything different, by the way, you noticed, just go ahead and change that. But yeah, I actually don't remember the things that I'm looking at this particular time. So I cannot like commentate, obviously. But judge it yourself, like look at your reference, and you'll be able to achieve the result. I think this is just me focusing on the details now. That's why I am zooming in a bit too much to start adding some of the details in the skin. And yeah, that's basically it. You can see the amount of variation you can see on the albedo map. So I am just like trying to create that particular variation in every part of the skin now, even though I have actually started adding the reds. But yeah, like you can see the amount of variation. This is something that we actually want to go with, especially with the reference that we have. There is a possibility that the character that you are creating might not have that much amount of skin color variation, but in this case, he definitely has that, and that's why I'm actually just trying to add those. Now you can see that I have started adding the reds, and I've just gone into the render viewport, by the way, to see how much of these reds are working. I also had the option to just go into the render viewport. There is gonna be a time, by the way, when I'll just start adding small little details, and I'm just gonna stop working on the bigger shapes. Bigger shapes in terms of color, bigger like spots. So, like you can see that In the cheeks we have pretty nice variation, but we don't have that variation on all part of the face. So the next goal is gonna be to start adding those variation in basically every single part of the face. And You can see that I've actually started adding some of the paler yellows. In the future, I am also gonna be start creating the similar variation on the upper lip and the beard area, basically wherever there are gonna be facial hairs. Like you can see that with the bigger brush, actually decreasing the size of the radius and start adding these variation is basically what I'm doing right now. So you can like clearly see, even though I have the bigger brush selected, but because the radius of the brush itself is pretty small, I am actually adding small little details instead of the bigger details. I mean, the idea is pretty simple. The idea is to just, just go into the details. Now that I've actually blocked out the bigger colors, I think it is the time that I can just, go into, small little details. So that's what I'm doing right now. And again, this is pretty repetitive. So just look at what I'm doing, and I'll just come back later when I feel like that, something important were to come up. Okay, so we are about to do something important, and it actually didn't took that long for me to, come back to the commentary. So, as you can see that I've actually duplicated the bigger detailed brush, and the idea is to basically remove the jitter so that I basically can, paint pretty like normally, like you're gonna see how the brush is basically working. It's just a normal brush, right? So the idea is again to just paint these spots that you can see, and I am like now trying to just add a little bit of noise so that even though I basically don't want any jitter, I can still get a little bit of variation through the noise. So that's basically what the idea is. And now you can see some of these moles or some of these spots in that particular area. Like just call them whatever you wanna call them. But basically on the cheekbone kind of area, and you can see even though this is supposed to be pretty sharp, I am still making sure that it actually blends with the skin. So this is something that I'm actually just trying to figure out if this is gonna work or not. And this brush is basically for creating these spots. And like you can see, it's not actually a dot. Like the colors, I am still trying to make sure that color, it looks like that the color are basically blending in the skin. So it's not just a dot. There are some blending going on. And yeah, that's basically what I'm gonna do with this brush. So again, I don't think that there is anything else for me to say. Like you can see what I'm doing. So I am obviously just gonna do some test renders, and with the result of those renders, I'm just gonna keep on changing these colors until they start looking nicely in the renders. So again, the similar workflow, just trial and error stuff. So yeah, let's actually just keep on going. as you can see that I've actually used a different strength for all these sports, and the idea is to just to see which one of the strength is gonna work or not. And in the end, I've realized that I think the darkest one was actually working better, and I also needed to make sure that it is not as black as it was. So as you can see, I am actually choosing the brownish colors. So the sports were a bit too black. Again, you can see because I've undooed everything. For some reason, Blender actually does this weird thing that it actually undo everything. So even the brushes settings were undooed, and now I am actually just re-adding the noise, but with a bigger scale so that I can actually get a little bit of more variation. Okay, so as you can see, the color is not as much black as it was before. So this is something that I'm doing, and now I'm just gonna redo that stuff again. Okay, so as you can see, instead of making the pores, for some reason, I am actually have started doing this pale kind of a color, the greenish kind of a color that you can see in the reference. So this is something that I'm adding with this brush as well. And on top of this color, I think I am actually just gonna start adding these spots. But right now, as you can see, because there is a color variation that you can see in this particular part, I am actually trying to achieve that color in the portrait as well. So yeah, now you can see that I am like again going back to adding all the spots. So yeah, before adding the spots, I actually wanted to make the color a bit lighter, and that's what I've did. So yeah, now I am actually just going back to adding all these spots. Okay, so we have done a render as you can see, and again I've actually tried blending the colors with the skin, so you can like clearly see what the result actually is. And yeah, this is again just the trial and error. Like there isn't again, I have no idea what to commentate. Like you can clearly see what the idea was, and now I think I'll actually just go back and tweak some of the things. But yeah, this is basically what the workflow is, and I am just gonna save this color to the palette because I think this color actually kind of works. The color that I'm talking about, by the way, is the lower, like lighter brown color that I've painted in the bottom part of these spots. This is basically what the color is, and now What I'll actually start doing is I'm actually just gonna start adding some of these blackish like spots, like the darker spots as you can see in the reference. So I am just trying to add something similar, and yeah, let me just go away so that you can just watch the video peacefully. Okay, so this video is about to end, and I mean you saw what I did, right? So I don't really think there is anything for me to explain, but yeah, there is another video where we are actually just gonna continue doing the albedo color, and I'm just gonna see you in that one.